The void fits inside of you. Nothingness exists within your ribcage. Breathing in, breathing out. Are you starting to hear me yet? Is it starting to sink in? Are you comfortable with dying? Death fits in the framework. The void fits inside of you.
For months, I'd been dealing with constant night terrors, with nothing in the way of an answer as to why they even happened. I was plagued with the dreams of being chased by something I could never clearly see. Almost all of them occurred in different places, but they all had that loathsome beast in common. From what I could remember, it was a tall statue of a man wearing tattered rags like a cloak, and a face of uncanny proportions. Every time I blinked, something else would be wrong with it. It hunted me with a melancholic expression that remained unchanging underneath the distortion. I couldn't properly see its eyes, but it hurt my brain to imagine. I would always find that I'd be close to escaping, but suddenly I'd be held back. The thing would wrap its talons around me, and I would awake in a cold sweat. As a result, my sleep schedule was entirely misaligned. At times, I spent 48 hours without rest. It's been debilitating, and quite frankly, I'm all out of my worldly explanations. I'm turning to medicinal and spiritual cures simultaneously because nothing else seems to work, and I'm desperate for anything. I frequented places like Reddit where people with similar issues would gather. They treated my case like a work of fiction. However, instead of receiving any actual help, my escapades were taken for a meme. I had dozens of threads of brainless inside jokes, so I moved to more practical means. Sleep doctors don't usually have fancy titles that describe their jobs. I actually had to look it up, and apparently they're called somnologists. From what I could tell, they dealt more with sleep apnea and insomnia. Well, I suppose that whatever was going on with me made me somewhat of an insomniac. I was worried about going to a psychiatrist for it, because they might have started asking me about my past, which I wasn't a big fan of, but I scheduled an appointment with a somnologist the next day. If nothing else, the decorum was nice. The waiting room I sat in was a visual representation of aging. Peeling wallpaper, chipped tables, magazine covers from at least 10 years ago, and an old TV playing some daytime talk show. The place reminded me a bit of a nursing home, minus the smell of feces and annoyed calls for help. Depressing nonetheless. I was the only one there, but even so, I still had the distinct impression that it would take a while. The man that greeted me was a grey soul. Wrinkles ate away at a perfect complexion. His face was dominated by an unkempt beard. His eyes were tired and almost glazed over as they met mine.
Margaret?
I stood up from the chair and strode over to him as he gave me a weak smile and opened the door to his office.
My name is Dr. Aldren. It's a pleasure to meet you. So what brings you in today?
I collected myself with a breath before I explained myself. I can't seem to get a single night's sleep without being scared awake by a nightmare. He nodded and gave me a sympathetic look. They're all the same. Every single time, without fail, it's always that I'm being chased by a monster or whatever it is. Dr. Aldren took a moment to write something down on his notepad.
What medications do you take?
I scoffed. At most, a Zyrtec when the pollen is in full bloom.
Okay.
He replied, furrowing his brow as he wrote something else.
How long has this been going on for?
Probably 2.5 months. Maybe even 3. I couldn't tell you. I've been losing track of time.
All right, that makes enough sense.
He put down his notepad and looked optimistically at me.
I don't think this is going to be anything life-changing, especially not with the time frames. You know, modern technology has progressed rapidly, and with that comes some fascinating cures for what would have had doctors scratching their heads.
What do you mean?
I mean that there are new doors opening, and we have tools to better understand our ailments.
I was starting to think I went to the wrong clinic when he continued.
It's possible with this new technology to record our dreams in visual format. Photo renditions with high quality and even complete full-resolution videos.
Does that mean we could figure out what's going on in my head?
Most certainly. This already exists to some extent, but its uses are strictly recreational. But that's only the public. They've been testing it for medicinal treatment for years now. If you consent to this, I'd like you to know that you would be a piece of neuroscience history.
I didn't agree to it at the moment because I thought I'd make an appearance in a textbook. Although, if I'm being honest, that would have been a good reason. I agreed out of desperation for a quick answer. The way it was explained to me made it sound much simpler than it actually was. It was basically a pair of goggles connected to a sheet of wired mesh that went over the user's head. The mesh was embedded with neural scanners that would be able to capture brainwaves. The goggles would then take that information and cross-reference it with visual information from the user's rapid eye movement to put together a cohesive scene. So in theory, it would have been able to perfectly replicate what I could see in my dreams. After I signed some legally binding paperwork, the equipment was sent to my house with instructions on how to set it up and record. I adjusted the straps to fit my head shape, laid down, and calibrated it for observation. Dream scan number 1. The pitter-pattering of running water, the splashing of wet footsteps, the inky uncertainty in gloomy surroundings. I found no light from where I stood. Trees soared above me into a night that swallowed their branches. Every step forward was treacherous, but my legs carried me forward all the same. I realized staunchly that I was barefoot, as the muck squished through my toes. My nails passed through wild shrubbery, while my arms pushed aside what might have been tall grass. I couldn't really be sure. My breath was short and staggered, like I was trying to mask my presence, to shrink into the foliage, and hope that something wouldn't find me. I could make out just enough of my surroundings to know that there was a clearing somewhere up ahead. Twilight made it difficult to judge the distance, but I figured that, until I was certain of the presence of danger, it was probably best to crouch in the bushes. There was a tiny pinprick of luminance that appeared somewhere to the left of my position. I had wondered if it was a flashlight, but that was quickly ruled out by taking a closer look at its behavior. It didn't cast a glow on the surfaces as it passed. It also couldn't have been a firefly or a lightning bug, because the orb moved in perfect paths, levitating between branches. Thinking quickly, I laid flat on my stomach, despite the mud staining my clothes. I had no way of knowing if it was a threat, but the sight of anything other than uninterrupted black made my blood run cold. Silence followed its perfect motion, like an elegant predator that urges the rest of the forest to wordlessly reply. It traveled by me without deviating. Either it didn't see me, or it didn't view me as a threat. I trusted my instinct and remained still, until it was far enough away that it couldn't suddenly spot me. After a few moments, I carefully got to my feet and began to tiptoe over to the clearing, judging that the coast was clear. The soil grew drier and rougher against my soles. Clearly, it was a patch of earth where nothing grew. I found I was able to move a bit more freely, Granted, I still wasn't willing to drop my guard. Places like that were always a touch too familiar. Just as I was beginning to feel safe, a prickling sensation rolled its way up my spine. I felt it before I heard it, louder in some parts than others. Shifting, scheming. All around me were whispers, the utterance of foul words and lowly curses.
Reach into your ribcage. Dip your fingers into the absence of the river. Death will be a hollow comfort for you. Reach into the chasm of your ribcage. Follow the false ascension. Do it now. Reach into the core of your being.
I instantly faltered where I stood. I wasn't sure of where to go, or even what to do. Had I been discovered? Was it too late for me? The meadows were vacant of any snapping branches or poorly masked footsteps, but I felt surrounded by the malicious voices as they circled like ravenous vultures. Out of a need to do anything at all, I darted forward into impending doom. I fully expected to run directly into a ghastly being, but the air in front of me was clear. I hastened my escape, no longer caring whether or not I was being followed. My lungs ached with the burden of running away from whatever lurked in the halo of the clearing. Breathing in, breathing out in rapid succession as my heart's drum reached a crescendo in my ears. Each crashing footstep felt like a seismic impact as the muscles of my legs screamed in protest. I had to keep pushing. Each breath felt like a knife in my chest. Every bullet of sweat a hindrance to my already limited sight. I stumbled against loose roots and uneven mounds of dirt, somehow managing to keep going when I almost fell against the rough terrain. My thoughts in an instant were reduced to primal smoke signals. Instinctive, reactive. I didn't have time to process the cold, dead hands that were wrapped around my torso. With a fierce motion, my momentum sent me crashing into the dirt. In blaring panic, I clawed at the soil, desperately trying to worm my way out of the clutches of the entity. I looked over my shoulder to see him, the man of morphing features, the frown with characteristics of a murderous grin. End of analysis. Uploading data to hub. 10%, 20%, 30%. Transmitting audio. Audio corrupted. He follows the whispers. Upload complete. The waking day after the first recording session felt hazy, guided with direction, but lacking clear purpose. I reported back to Dr. Aldren to discuss the results, and to see what he made of it all. His office was lit only by the rays pouring in from a large window. The receptionist led me to it with purpose in her step. When we walked in, he stood by the glass, watching the world outside as though he were contemplating something.
Hello there.
He chirped, seemingly surprised.
How's it going, Margaret?
Same old, same old. Did you guys receive the scan?
It transferred over just fine, but there were some aspects of it that we had to troubleshoot. Audio had a hard time loading in, but the visuals remained mostly unaffected.
So, any thoughts? I mean, I don't exactly know what they were meant to find.
Well, for one, I am intrigued by how consistent the dream itself was. Usually, in the clinical trials, we find that these experiences are broken up into vignettes, scenes that have nothing to do with each other. At most, the patients rarely will be able to reference back to a previous scene while in a later one. Yours is unified under a single motif that remained unchanged throughout the recording. In itself, it doesn't tell us much, but for what we have right now, it's a development that will serve us well later.
Did the man appear again?
He showed up at the very end. For most of the video, you were hiding in the woods, avoiding a pale orb of light. Emotionally, that seems to parallel where you've been for the last few months.
So, what does that mean? Am I getting faster each time I run away? Is there a chance that it could be a positive trend? Maybe that means the nightmares end when I outrun him. Dr. Aldren considered it for a moment, tilting his eyebrows, thumb tucked against his lips.
It's too early to call it anything. I suppose we'll understand a bit better after further analysis. Until then, do you have any concerns with the machine itself? Are you satisfied with the results?
Yeah, I didn't have any problems with the tech itself. It was easy enough to set up. I do want to know one thing though. Did the audio reveal anything? I don't know for sure, but I think I remember hearing whispers somewhere in that place. He faltered before answering.
We picked up on what could have been a quiet voice, but it's impossible to say for sure. We just don't know yet.
With that, I let the rest of the day play out. I finished up coursework and other things that had been begging for my attention. Menial chores while the obvious lingered in the back of my head. I felt a growing lack of purpose while carrying out tasks that grew a lightness in my chest, a space of empty ponderance. Dream scan number 2. I stood in a garden surrounded by a horizon of dunes. The desert sky was somehow absent of light, but crawling with it in the same way. No sun to dominate those inhospitable wastelands, but I was safe in my halo of flowers. There were only veins of daylight, rays that poked through a cruel firmament. I thought to call for help, for someone to tell me where I was. It felt like a pocket of paradise in a world of suffering. The flowers all around me smelled of plastic. Sure enough, as I plucked one from the earth, I pulled with it a barcode that glared at me unpleasantly. Upon kneeling, even the grass felt fake and rough against my skin. As quickly as I realized that my comfort was an illusion, the growing strings began to disappear, leaving me in a black expanse of nothingness. The air stood still, and before the oasis was plunged into inky gloom, I spotted something that turned my blood to ice. The silhouette of the man from before, only taller in stature, lingering somewhere in the sand beyond my false pasture. The whispers came from the unyielding blanket of twilight, harsher with their tongues and bolder with their nebulous demands. Their multitude formed a perfect circle around the flower bed, and once more, I found myself holding my breath, not sure of what to do.
Peel your ribcage open. Let your reason guide you to the portal. The master grows impatient.
In bubbling frustration, I shouted out to the dunes. What the hell am I supposed to do? What do you want from me?
Your soul. Open up your soul. Let the river spill forth from the gaping wound.
You stay the fuck away from me. Stay back.
Your flesh is mine.
In an instant, I was blinded by the light of day as it descended from the dark sky. The man's distorting face was mere inches from mine. His sorrowful mask was twisted by sadistic glee as he towered over me. His cloak poorly hid his body, which was littered with flesh wounds and deep cuts. Then, just before I woke up, he spoke. For the first time, his voice was like skeletons on the ocean floor, death accented on the back of his tongue.
You have nowhere to go. Accept the portal and submit to the ascension.
End of analysis. Uploading data to hub. Processing error. Unknown permissions override. He follows the whispers. He is not alone. You are
Next.
I snapped awake to the crack of thunder that rattled my windows. I instantly felt something had shifted in my life. It was the feeling of waking up on the wrong side of the bed, but amplified to an absurd degree. That day felt strange to me, and I couldn't put my finger on why it was so different. In my chest was this chasm of meaning. I had very little motivation to do anything I was meant to do. The only reason I even went back to Dr. Aldren's office was because we were supposed to be on the cusp of answers. I didn't have a raincoat, so I tried my best to stay dry after I parked my car. I was once more the only one in the lobby, so the receptionist led me to his office, where the door was already left ajar. He stood leaning up against the windowsill, clearly distraught by something he had seen. "Good morning to you, Doctor. How are you?"
He wasn't alone. The desert sky, the ascension foretold in your dreams, they are all one organism. I've been listening to those cryptic whispers, and there has to be something greater trying to communicate with you. With us.
I gawked at him, taken aback by his complete lack of usual pleasantries. How could you possibly come to that conclusion? He ran his fingers through his hair in a clear attempt to pull himself together.
There is something seriously wrong with whatever's happening here. Dreams are usually hazy and hard to follow, but there is a clear motif in yours. And these occurrences, they are far too coherent to be dismissed as subconscious symbolism. I have a hunch, and I hope I'm wrong, but science has yet to tread upon the things I have seen from these recordings.
So, what do we do? What does this mean?
Somehow its influence is only expanding. It gains hold of more thoughts. We need to figure out how to influence your dreams in real time to dissuade it. Out of curiosity, how is your mental state?
Fine, I guess.
I need more than an I guess. Have you been feeling like there's a hole in your life?
That's actually a perfect way of saying it. How could he have known?
If my instincts are correct, and those voices are to be believed, there is an entity trying to break through the nocturnal realm itself. You are becoming the door.
Can you prove any of this?
You're going to have to put some trust in me. As a practitioner of medicine and a man of observable truth, this is greater than a burden of proof. Even if I was able to demonstrate it, I don't think you would believe me. Truth is, I'm not supposed to know what's going on. You were meant to be the only recipient of its messaging. Now the dream recorder is somehow tainted by it. I definitely can't explain it in a way that doesn't make me sound superstitious. The truth is that it just might be.
Where did you get all this information from? Assuming I just nod along. What can we do to combat it?
I've seen this before we even had the technology. Back when we used to treat these things spiritually, after medicine failed. And now, even though we possess these capabilities, it remains unprecedented. As far as how we fight this thing, I have an idea. There's an experimental function where I can watch the signals as they transmit live to my system. Think of it like you're live streaming, and I'm watching the feed.
So your plan is to be a viewer in a live stream?
No. Even better. An admin. Think about it. This system has loopholes that I can take advantage of, and if I can access your dreams while they occur, I might just be able to somehow sever the entity's connection with your mind.
I'm putting a lot of faith in you by agreeing to this. Fuck, this is so crazy. Do we even know what the hell it is?
There are theories as to what crosses those barriers. Usually, religion seeks to categorize it as angelic or demonic. Science says it's an ailment or a condition. Neither definition accurately captures it. I think it's stranger than any of that.
What do we do if this fails?
I won't give up on you.
What happens?
I don't know.
I was dumbstruck by suddenly it seemed my life was nearing its end. It went from a promising development to a threat to my reality. And this doctor, a man of empiricism, losing his footing in reason, rambling off into new dimensions. I couldn't say whether he had gone mad, or if he had seen it all clearly, as if it was always obvious. Either way, I had nowhere else to go from where I stood. He was my beacon of logic in a cloud of confusion. If there was genuinely a way out of it, whatever answers I'd find, I would have been through him. I laid my head down that night upon a cool pillow, closing my eyes and, for the first time in my life, praying for a resolution. My final thoughts before I drifted away once again were of brighter times. I thought about the war man wages against the ineffable. How knowledge is but a library that clashes with the shadows beyond its shelves. A compendium with words and facts for swords and shields. Dream scan number 3. I opened my eyes to find that I was floating in a pool somewhere, quiet and lonely. I was on an inner tube looking up at faint northern lights, reveling in the purity of an unbroken moment. Tilting my head, I saw pillars crowning the corners, stretching into the air and giving it a historical weight. The columns were chiseled with glyphs that I could not place, and regal patterns that traced up their lengths. I flipped myself over to swim in the water, and its temperature was just right on my skin. Somewhere between a relaxing bathtub and a cool, undisturbed lake. A bit of water splashed into my mouth, and with a start, I realized it was sweet like candy. I was in a pool of sugar water, gazing up to heavens that felt closer to me with each moment. It was slightly thicker than any chlorinated pool I'd been in before, and the water stuck to my skin a bit more, but I flowed with almost otherworldly ease. I almost wanted to drink more from the body of nectar, but my thought process was interrupted by a rising sensation. It wasn't that I was levitating up out of the water, but the pool itself was floating higher into the streaks of light above me. I drifted on my back so I could watch the stars as they rushed at me. The aurora borealis surrounded me and swam beneath my weight. My eyes widened when I saw other floating pools, looming like temples in the shifting space above. A particularly large one was closing in on mine, and I quickly steadied myself, bracing for an impact mid-air. The collision split the silence open, rattling me down to my core. The cosmic bliss I'd felt only moments ago was replaced by dread. Somehow the pools were still ascending, but the crash forced mine to merge with another, and for a moment I wasn't sure which one I was in. It was shallower than the first one, but somehow longer and wider. I stood up and began to wade my way through it, trying to discern if the glyphs were any different from the ones I had initially seen. That was when I heard the whispers for the last time.
It is upon us. Welcome him. Receive the portal.
The northern lights instantly faded away as a loud voice cut through their calculated delirium.
Leave this place! Never return!
It was Dr. Aldren. He had done it. He actually found a way to intercept my dreams.
You are entitled to no one. This ends here.
He has already arrived. From the far side of the smooth tile on the edge, I watched in horror as a grey hand climbed the side of the pool, hoisting alongside it the visage of the masked man. Attached to its arms and legs were black ropes, almost as if it were being puppeteered by something else altogether. Dr. Aldren threatened the apparition with contempt in his voice.
You are not real. You claim no stake in her life. Your master is nothing more than a falsehood.
The man stood there unmoving at his words for several moments before it twitched, and a white doorway opened in the sky directly above us. I have a hard time describing or even thinking about what the creature on the other side of the portal looked like. I could see arms and hands and fingers moving together like undefined lines. Eyes shone like ancient pearls in the bay. Teeth jittered in lockstep with it all. It was a horrible thing, but one I took for a god in awe of the moment. Meanwhile, Dr. Aldren tried to play loud signals and ear-piercing frequencies to try to distract it, to perhaps sever its connection with my mind. Nothing worked. He attempted to shout at it in vain. The pool continued to float, and each noise grew quieter until it blended imperfectly with the splashing of water. I don't know if he ever realized it was futile. Maybe my silence was at some point confirmation of his worst fears, and if knowledge of its weapon with certainty could be overturned, if its shield could be splintered by gaps in the heavens, I suppose I'm now witnessing the effects of defeat. I'm sinking into this while lifting my spirit to meet the deity's request, revolting at every glimpse, reveling in the chasm of my chest. I'm feeling the absence of anything where my heart should be. I breathe so much easier when I realize it doesn't go anywhere. I am a vacuum dictated by flesh. I am a portal. I am a vehicle and the gods are passengers. The gods are passengers. Nobody's wearing their seatbelts. We're floating and drowning in the pools of sugar water. This is my destiny. I am all but too late. I'd like to thank Angelo for giving me the chance to narrate his fantastic story. Please offer your thanks to him in the comment section down below. I'd also like to thank my two dear guests for joining me in this narration, Vidith22 and Dexter for joining. Check them out if you haven't already. They're pretty damn cool. Let me know what you thought as well in the comment section down below. Comments. If you would like to support my work further, consider becoming a channel member or Patreon supporter. Both get access to exclusive perks. Look at them! Look at these amazing people! However, watching and commenting, stabbing the like button, and subscribing is always very much appreciated. Check out my socials and my merch links down below. Stay safe, my little spooklings. And remember, I'll be watching you.